Hi everyone and welcome here to ICE Connect North America. Our session is driving yield to online casino business with AI-driven hyper-personalization. So artificial intelligence affects many economic sectors, including online gambling. Today, companies are attempting to figure out to what extent AI can increase yield. Joining us today at ICE Connect is Eduardo Remedios, VP of Symphony iGaming Solutions, and Damien Evans, CEO of Graphyte, a partner of Symphony Solutions. So Eduardo and Damien will be discussing how the fruits of personalization are being enjoyed and the importance of incorporating search into true one-to-one personalization as a catalyst and driver to the AI personalization experience. So Eduardo and Damien, thank you both for joining me here today.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew.
So to kick things off, Eduardo, given your experiences in AI and the online casino business, can you set the scene for our North American audience?
Certainly. The first thing I think I would say is there's a tremendous opportunity there. There isn't a great deal of legacy involved because it's fresh and it's new. The thing to be mindful of, it's not a copy and paste. And when I say that, it's not something you can't take the same approach that you would have with Europe and just apply that to the American market. The needs and the expectations of our North American bettors are quite unique, quite different from those in Europe. So you need to be mindful of that. And the whole premise around AI-driven personalization is about providing exactly what is relevant to the end user, whether they're in Europe or whether they're in North America. So there's a wonderful opportunity to get it right from the beginning, I would say, in North America.
So sticking with you, Eduardo, how important is it for casino or sports betting operators to introduce personalization to their customer experience?
Well, it's tremendously important. Talking about the online experience isn't something new. A lot of the operators have been talking about that for many years now. If we take a few steps back, the USP initially, even as early as say 7 or 8 years ago, was about having depth of content. So sports betting operators would have hundreds and hundreds of events going on, another enormous amount of inventory. And that was how they thought they differentiated. But that's very much just a commodity now. And quite the opposite is you really, to ensure you have a great experience, that content needs to be relevant. It's no good getting promos for ice hockey if you're absolutely only interested in the NFL, right? And so that relevancy of content is king. It really is.
Damien, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Ed's bang on the money with his with his comments. I think a lot of operators have tons and tons of content and tons of users, but it's really difficult to distill that into something that each user can consume. It's incredibly important. And we talk about, within what we do with our client base, at very specific levels, talk about the technology and stuff like that. But actually, from an operator point of view, personalization is really, along with maybe product development, personalization is the only real way you can build sustainable growth out of your existing client base. So, we all know how to grow through acquisition, but actually the sustainable, true long-term profit comes from your existing customer base through enhanced retention and a better customer experience. And that personalization is the only real way you can deliver that.
Well, you've just touched on it there, Damien, so perhaps we'll just stick with you. What benefits are there for players from personalized content?
I mean, it's hard to see any limits to the benefit to a player. If you think about traditional e-commerce principles and good sites where you go and buy stuff and where you interact with a lot of content, it's easy to find things, right? You'll go onto a clothes shop, and if they know you, they know the kind of clothes that you want to buy. It's exactly the same principle with gaming and betting. The differences are, especially within betting, the sheer volume of things that you can find, right? The sheer volume of markets and selections and bets and prices and all that kind of stuff. But the principles and the tenets behind why it makes a good customer experience is exactly the same as it is in any other vertical or any other digital experience. It's easy to find stuff, you can find new things, there's serendipity. And therefore players will stick with you if they're finding that. And we've seen that time and again with every operator that we work with. And when we were operator side ourselves, right? So we're obviously now in the supplier landscape, but when we were operator side ourselves, the biggest benefits, the biggest uplifts, and the biggest changes in retention behaviors came when we started to adjust and customize and tailor user experiences. because it's a better site for someone to use. So those kind of fundamental principles are exactly the same, and it's no different within betting and gaming. It's perhaps more complex to deliver, certainly on the betting side, but those tenets are exactly the same. It's just a better experience. You're much more likely as a user to come back to a site where you can find stuff you like, stuff you think you'll like, and things to discover, and easy access to promotions, whether that's on site or whether that's below the line through email and push communication. So it's just the same as going to any website that you like, and the ones that you keep going back to because you find content and it's easy to use. And that's exactly the same within personalization.
So perhaps we could talk a little bit about the financial upsides for operators. Perhaps you could talk about conversion rate, quick wins, cross sells, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, again, the limits, there's no limit. There's genuinely no limit to what you can achieve through personalization. We all know that a pound saved through retention is worth 10 times more than a pound saved through acquisition, for sure. Things like core retention rates will improve into double digits just by implementing even relatively light touch personalization of homepages, the key touch points. So gaming lobbies, that is where 70% of game launches come from. 70% of casino revenue plus will come from the lobby. The overwhelming majority of casino lobbies are generic, right? They're curated. They're curated by talented people that know the gaming space, but you can't curate an experience for hundreds of thousands of users because they're all individual. They all do different things. So quickest wins that we've seen time and time again, improve and upgrade the primary touch points with the product and the brand. That's the homepage. Everybody hits the homepage first. If you optimize it, if you make it a nice mix of previously played content, discovery content, and promotional offering, you'll have a great portal. And like I say, 70 to 80% of all revenue comes from the homepage on gaming sites. So it just makes sense to do that. Beyond where you get kind of beyond those kind of above the line touch points, below the line, email communications tend to be generic. They're rarely personalized. I know because I get tons and tons. I have accounts with into 40, 50 operators, and I monitor like comms and see what's good and what's not. Most of it's generic. Most of it is scheduled, and it doesn't respond to the player's behavior. So for example, if I go onto a website and I don't play and I go off, I have a balance. Why not? What's the reason for that? I probably haven't found. I've either been distracted or I found nothing to play. What we can do, and what works really well for players, if you know someone's been on the site, they've got funds, they normally play or bet at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, go and retarget them, right? But you retarget them with the key primary content that you have to engage those users. So that drives uplift from retention. It keeps people engaged, and again, you're not into then the churn kind of cycle, which is much more expensive and far less effective. It's limitless. We've got case studies on our site, and numerous internal case studies from the key touch points around homepage and key betting bits of real estate, like bet slip, for example, or bet receipts. These are really high traffic areas of every site, obviously, because that's how you place a bet. They're very rarely personalized or customized to the player, and yet there'll be hundreds of thousands of hits on those pages every day. By optimizing that content and that dead real estate, you're looking again into double-digit turnover and GGR uplift just by optimizing the real estate with relevant content.
Yeah, and just I'll just add one point there. Just factor in large operators that work across a number of different geographical areas. So coming back to North America, think about an operator that's working currently in Europe and is now focused on the US market. Yeah, so those benefits can be had across multiple jurisdictions by addressing or at least taking advantage of personalization. You could be personalizing for the North American audience and receiving the benefits there that Damien mentioned, and you could do the same thing for your European clients as well, your customers.
So Damien, could you share with us an example about the concept of real-time bet recommendations based on the player and the content of the bet slip? And of course, why is this going to be a good thing?
Yeah, so this is one of our favorite use cases for personalization. I touched about it a little bit on the previous question. We love it for lots of different reasons. So the concept is a player places a bet or is about to place a bet. They're captive, they've got money, they know they're going to do that. How do you optimize that from a financial perspective and from a user perspective? So what we do is inject bet recommendations into those key placement journeys. So the bet placement journey or the bet settlement journey. It works incredibly well on lots of different levels. So it's very simple to implement for any operator. right? Because it's not complicated UX, it's not a complicated piece of front-end engineering, it's just a rectangle generally on mobile with very captive real estate. But because you've got what the player has just bet on, because of everything you know about the player and all the other kind of techniques it's possible to use within personalization, you can make highly contextual kind of next bet recommendations, but within that key journey, within dead real estate. So we've implemented this countless times. It's what we suggest to sports operators when we go live first with a new implementation, because of all those things, the ease of implementation, the financial upsides, because it just works. It just works. You guarantee you will get uplift, right? You guarantee you'll get lots of people betting on this stuff, on that real estate. The fact that it's high traffic, so everybody that places a bet will see the bet receipt, guaranteed, right? That's a fact. It's one of life's truisms. And it's easy to measure, right? Because you've got that traffic and you can see which players do and don't interact with it. And of course, the content's highly contextually relevant. So this is by far and away what we say the jumping off point should be for sports betting personalization on site.
So Eduardo, how have you been able to deliver this capability when others in the industry have struggled?
Well, I think the first thing to understand is that it's a heavy lift. Okay, it's a lot of work and effort, and we have dedicated teams working on the product. That's the first thing, and it's a core product that belongs to Graphyte. So Graphyte is one of our customers. We pride ourselves in developing long-term relationships with our customers. To the extent that Graphyte and Symphony are now partners. From an operator point of view, trying to do this internally is an enormous challenge. Damien, how many years have we been working on this?
I mean, we've been going for 3 solid years with a big team of people, but I mean, this was part of my remit for 5 years before that. So, and we still haven't cracked it.
So it's not a trivial task, Matthew. I think the key thing is having the right people, making sure that people understand the domain that we're working on, and ensuring that they're focused on just this part of the roadmap. So we're not trying to do everything else that an operator has to do, which is non-trivial in itself. We're focused solely on providing this personalization and recommendation product suite. I think that's key.
So what would you say are the latest developments or new features that we could look forward to within personalization technology?
I mean, we're constantly looking to move the dial on features. We take a lot of feedback from our client base as well. So, and I guess a lot of technology companies do this as well. So if we hear, if there's an idea that an operator has, or a little tweak, we take a lot of input into that, and then we expand it into the product. It's a SaaS product, so we build it out and share it with the rest of the base. The latest thing we're looking at is search. So we had noticed that many operators don't even have a search function on the site, so neither on the gaming nor the sports site. Now, if we go back to what I was saying a few questions previously about e-commerce and good experiences, if you go to an e-commerce website, you search, right? I mean, we search, like 60% of users expect to have a search function on a website. That's no different whether it's betting, gaming, handbags, medicine, holidays, right? You go and search. That's what we do. It's our behavior in the digital age. And yet it's by no means the norm on gaming sites, right? Far from it. So we've been focusing on a really smart kind of search engine that just brings search, but it's bespoke and engineered to gaming and betting companies, right? So it does so much stuff. I mean, I could go on and on about it. Aliasing teams, so you could type in Spurs or the Nets or whatever like that, and you'll get those kind of teams come back in your search. The difference that we have, and with a kind of smarter search program, is it will tailor the markets and stuff to the player as well. So if you go in and search for Leicester City, for example, and you bet on match result markets, that's what you'll see coming back, not just a whole list. You can turn it on, turn it off, and we think this is really key. We think every operator should have a functioning search engine, and that it should be part of those customized journey, like a standard customer journey for transacting on a betting site.
Great. Well, thank you so much for you two for joining me here today at Ice Connect North America, and I wish you well in all your future endeavours.
Thank you very much, Matthew.
It's been a pleasure.